Welcome to another segment of Streams, Pods, and God, where I'll take a topic and look at it through the lens of streamers, podcasters, and Christ followers, because I am all three of those things. So tonight's topic, I'm Francisco Ruiz, by the way, from the Retro Rewind Podcast. Check us out at retrorewindpodcast.com. But for tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about what you should expect, actually what not to expect first, and then what you can expect in the realms of streaming, podcasting, and God following. So to start things off, we're going to first be talking about streaming and what not to expect. And I am going to be interacting with chat a little bit while I do this, so I'm going to be mainly focused on my notes. So let's see. Okay. So first, for streaming, things not to expect. And it's unfortunate that people... It's hard not to expect these things. And as I go through the things not to expect, I'm not saying you can't hope for these things, that you can't wish that they would come true, but you shouldn't expect that it's a given you're going to have any of these things. So first off, if you're a streamer, you do not expect to have any viewers. I mean, every time I turn on OBS and hit start streaming, you guys have really spoiled me, because it's very, 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 very rare when I don't have one of you guys on watching and interacting with me. So thank you so much. But that has not always been the case for me, and that won't always be the case for lots of people. For most people, in fact, you should not expect to have any viewers when you're streaming. You should also not expect to have people that do choose to watch you to chat or to stay. I mean, just because someone decides, I'm going to give your stream a shot, doesn't mean that you're entitled to have them watch the whole thing, or that they should. Oh well, you've sort of signed this contract that because you decide to watch, well, now you should chat and interact. Otherwise, I mean, you're not going to get the full feel of the stream if you don't do those things. Not really the job of the person who watches to interact or to watch you, or to stay, I should say. And then the third thing, and there's lots of things you shouldn't expect, but I try to come up with three main things. The third thing not to expect if you're streaming is that, let's say you're gotten to the point where you are an affiliate or a partner. You can't expect people to give you bits or to subscribe to your channel. It's like, even people who have been watching forever, you shouldn't have that expectation. And you may have noticed that all these things that people want to think that, even if you've been streaming for, let's say, I've been streaming for about, 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, very infrequently for a while, closer to 2 years, I think. It's only been 1.5 years? No, I think it's my very first stream on YouTube was like 2016. So I think it's been at least 2 years, but only started frequently being a streamer last year around this time. And so it can take year plus to get any headway. And even if you're streaming for that long, it's not okay to expect that people are going to, and you've been streaming that long and you've gotten to the point where you can actually monetize your stream. You can't expect anyone to give to that stream just because you've been monetized. Oh, like, I deserve it because I worked so hard to get to this point. That doesn't mean anything. Paul says, Dale says trolls. You can expect trolls. Yes, you can. Actually, I mean, I wouldn't even go to the point of expecting that. We'll get to the things to expect during streams, but it's a higher likelihood than not you'll get trolls. Paul says, I thought, you guys are talking about Post Mill. I'm going to table that discussion during this. Let's say Geek Devotions. Wait, I don't have to stay in chat? I thought if I left, Paul was going to break down my door and force me to watch Clockwork Orange. Well, I mean, there is that. If you have a partner in crime, then yes, you can have him do your dirty work for you. Thank you, Paul, by the way, for handling all my must-watch contingencies. No, nothing like that. Paul says, wow, might be a good idea, LOL, says Geek Devotions. Anyway, the things that you can expect if you are a streamer are that you can expect from yourself to stream consistently. I mean, that really is, especially if you're going to be doing this in any way as an enthusiast or to the point of professional, then you should definitely be, I'm going to end that turn. You should be expecting that of yourself, that you're going to stream consistently. You're going to have a schedule set that you're going to even if it's only once a week, that you can do it for 1 hour or even a half hour. As long as you're consistent, that's important. And you can expect that of yourself. Another thing to expect if you're streaming, and this is sort of in the context of semi-pro, striving to become semi-pro. So this is not so much focused on people that are just streaming for fun, something to do every once in a while just to see what it's like. This is not a conversation for them. So sorry if that's what you're looking for. Another thing to expect of yourself is to have fun, because you want to have, if you're having fun, then it's all the more likely that people are going to, when they do stop by, because I mean, I think it's it depends on what you're streaming, but likely, or if you're streaming for a year, the likelihood of at least one random person finding you, I think that's plausible. So in that case, you should move this guy. If that were to have, if that happens, or when that happens, then until I get distracted by the game, guys. Jeez, that's not good. You can expect to get distracted by your game and not chat to your people. That's another thing you can't expect. But expect to have fun. Have that mindset of, I'm going to have fun doing this, even if no one watches, even if no one chats. I'm getting to play a game and getting to potentially talk to people and make new friends. I mean, that sounds like a great thing. So expect to have fun. And then thirdly, expect yourself to push yourself to get better and better at this. I mean, the more you do it, the better you're going to get, especially if we talked about last week, going back and rewatching older streams, making sure you're taking time to do that. And that's an important part of becoming better, but also just doing this over and over, you're going to run into different technical issues. That's something else to expect. You're going to run into those. And so every time you run into them, you figure out how to overcome it so you don't have to run into it again. Just keep going like that. So those are the things to expect when you're streaming. So again, don't expect to have viewers, that people will watch and stay and chat, and don't expect people to give you bits and subs, but do expect yourself to stream consistently, to have fun, and to get better the more you do it. Then Dale says perseverance. Yes, that is a very important part. And you may notice that the things that you can't expect are things that aren't based on you. You have no control over these things. The things you can expect are of yourself, and the things you can control. I mean, as much as anyone can control anything. We're not getting into a free will versus predestination argument here. The line must be drawn here, and no further. Okay. Greek version that's Christian Mafia? You mean CCLI? No, we're not playing music here either, Geek Devotions. That's only part of it. Christian Geek Central. You didn't hear that from me. Hush, hush. Quiet ball. Geek Devotions, LOL. Gonna behave. I can disrespectful when it comes to relating Christian groups to the Mafia. All right. Fair enough, Geek Devotions. How do you temper your expectations? Table that for the Q&A. That's a great question, Geek Devotions. So if I forget to go back to that, please ask then. Next, we're going to hit on the topic of podcasts, what to expect or what not to expect, and what to expect. And you'll notice these first two, streams and podcasting, they're similar in that the things not to expect are things you have no control over, and the things to expect are the things you can actually influence. So first off, don't expect when you're starting off a podcast to get into iTunes without trouble. I fortunately did a lot of sort of groundwork, making sure my RSS feeds were correct, my descriptions were in place, all the sort of pre-work being done went into starring Dad's Voice and also Retro Rewind podcast, and I don't recall any issues getting into iTunes, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. It's been 6 years since we got submitted to iTunes, so it might be a different game and ballpark now. So that is something you can expect, because people, and even if you do get eventually into iTunes, it can take a while. Christian Geek Central, we mentioned just earlier, they were changing their name from their podcast to a new name, and they had all sorts of trouble getting that ready. So, and getting that submitted to iTunes so that iTunes would see it. So don't expect that you're going to just get into iTunes without trouble. Also, don't expect to have anyone other than, maybe your mom, listen to your show. And that's not to diss moms who listen to their sons or daughters' show. That's amazing. That's a great reason to have a mom for that reason. I mean, excuse me. Paul's mom is one of our best fans, and she listens to our show, and that's such a great thing. But don't expect anyone else to listen to your show. I mean, again, realize that you can lose one of your units if you forget to repair them. No, let's do that, guys. Don't expect anyone else to listen, though. And also, don't expect, if you're new to podcasting or thinking of launching a podcast, don't expect to have those that do decide to hit the download button or subscribe to have any interest in interacting or giving you feedback or anything like that, or even to the next level, to supporting you on Patreon or PayPal. Do not have any expectation of that just because you are creating something that, whether it's art or a content, just because you're a content creator does not, I'm trying to think of the right word, does not enable, but does not justify you getting anyone to want what you're making. It doesn't give you sort of any cause to say, well, I made this thing so I deserve someone to, it doesn't entitle you. That's the word I wanted. It doesn't entitle you to anything from anyone else just because you're putting something out there. So, really, something else that sort of leads us into things to expect. Expect that you're going to make something that you would enjoy yourself. That's really something that I think Retro Rewind podcast has in spades. It's something that I would listen to, and I enjoy doing it. And I listen to other shows that are like it because it's the type of show I like. I just realized I wanted to move my guy before I did that. Oh well, too late now. Let's see, what could we do here? I think we will. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll move there and shield. Oh, darn it, I can't shield that. Okay, well, this will be interesting. Yowza. Okay. And then we'll pull you. No. Shield. Well, that was not a great use of resources. Oh, well. So, the things to expect when you're podcasting is you can expect to have put in work to have your show worth listening to. So like I was saying just before, you want it to be a show that not only you would listen to, but you've put in enough work so that other people will want to listen to it, whether it's just the quality of the content or if it's an audio drama, the production value. Production should be something you strive for regardless. Or if it's news, that you're giving people the latest news and as unbiased as possible. And I guess it depends on what you're trying to do with the news. But so depending on your content, try and make it as good as possible and worth listening to. Also, you want to expect to release episodes consistently, because the people that are going to want to listen, a big part of podcasting is that you're expecting a regular release of an episode, because and that also helps people to become, in a way, your sort of online friends and even to some extent online family. They're like, they look forward to hearing from you. They look forward to hearing what you have to say. So you don't want to stifle that by having this erratic schedule. No one knows when they're going to listen to you, when they're going to hear from you. Let's say you're in a relationship with someone and you talk to them very infrequently. You go out with them very infrequently. You never know if it's going to be next week where you'll see them or next month. I mean, what kind of relationship are you going to have with? I'm talking about a romantic relationship. What kind of relationship are you going to have with a person like that? It's going to be really tough. So that's why it's important. And not to say that you're falling in love with your podcast. I mean, maybe you will, but especially if it's Retro Rewind podcast. No, but you need to have some level of consistency so that they can just, it becomes comfortable. It's you can work it into your life. It's helpful from a psychological aspect in that way. Let's go to chat here a little bit. I'm sure I'll go podcast. Geek Devotion says, LOL, our moms don't listen to our show or look at our website. Oh, sorry to hear that. Geek Devotion, neither is mine, though I have kind of an out because my mom's in heaven. Paul says, can I expect followers to... Oh, gosh. Let's see. Geek Devotion says, if you enjoy what you do, you'll never be disappointed. I think so. It would be hard to be disappointed if you're enjoying what you're doing. And then Rugged Warrior says, wait, you have a podcast? I think you're kidding, Rugged Warrior. If you're not, yes, go to retrorewindpodcast.com. If you're giving me that softball, I appreciate that. Yes, in fact, I do have a podcast. Geek Devotion says, creating community is super important. If you are upfront with them when you need to take a break, it's easier. That's a good point. And actually, Geek Devotions and I, Dallas from Geek Devotions and I will be doing, we're planning, so set expectations accordingly. We're planning next Monday for Streams, Pods, and God to do I'm going to have him on, and we're going to discuss cultivating community around content. So how's that for alliteration? And then Geek Devotion says, it's the greatest podcast ever. Sorry about the fork on plate, guys. My wife is eating her dinner, so we'll try to... It'll be okay. It won't last forever. Okay. So those are the things, again, real quick recap. Podcast. Don't expect to get into iTunes without trouble, to have anyone other than your mom, if that, listen to your podcast. So don't expect anyone to listen to your podcast, I think is the moral there. And don't expect to have those who do choose to download and listen. Don't expect them to interact with you or give you feedback or to even... let alone to actually give financially to your show. And then, no, she's not going to share dinner with you, Geek Devotions, unfortunately. But do expect to put in work to make quality content, because if you're gonna do the work of setting up a podcast to begin with, might as well do the work of making it something that's worth listening to. And then to make that thing that's worth listening to on a consistent basis. Expect to do that. And then you can have this as an expectation. It depends on your mindset, but a good expectation that I think to have is to actually expect to do it for the long haul. I think if you don't know what it's going to be, you're like very hesitant about it. I think it's going to be hard for you to push yourself to continue it. But if you have in your mind, you know what? I really want this to go on for 100 episodes or more. I think you're going to be that much more committed to carrying it out. And then Rugged Warrior says, I remember Pater used to make fake feedbacks for his show. Really? Pater from Christian Geek Central. I didn't realize that. I have not been listening to Pater's show that long. I mean, it's been a few years now, but I haven't been listening as long as that, Rugged Warrior. That's amazing. Okay, finally, for tonight, we're going to be talking about what to expect as a Christian and what not to expect as a Christian. And this, I think, I'm going to gear this probably more toward new believers. I don't know if anyone in the chat or anyone watching is new to the Christian faith, but a couple things to not expect when you become a Christian is you don't expect to have, now that I've chosen Christ, that my life's going to be just sunshine and roses and lollipop dreams. Don't expect that, because often, or not often, I should say we don't know, but if we're following Savior, if you've given your life to a Savior who died on a cross, surrounded by people that hated him, and we're supposed to be like him, why are we expecting that us being like him is going to be all sunshine and roses? Now, certainly you might hear, new believers might hear, you know what, just give your life to Christ and you're going to have burdens lifted off of you. You're going to be so much more at peace. And there's certainly elements of truth to that. But I think too often, especially newer believers, will have that that mindset will be completely focused on our current state here on earth. Like, oh, well, then that means things are going to go great in my relationships. My job is going to go so much better if I'm a Christian. I'm not going to have to worry about I don't know, what do people, I'm not going to have to worry about raising my kids. Everything's just going to go great. And that's not the case at all. What it means is that you'll have God to rely on, to ask for help. And he's going to give, he may not always help you when you want him to, but he will, in the end, bring you peace and bring you joy that will last forever. And all the pain we experience here will be a glimmer. Getting distracted, though. So don't expect to have a good life just because you're a Christian. Also, don't expect that... Yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think that's the main... Oh, no. Don't expect that all you have to do is... Don't expect two things. Then they're sort of mirror images of each other. Don't expect that all you have to do is go to church on Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights, whenever you go to church, your church. Don't expect to just go to church and that's all you have to... That's the only time you have to spend with God. No other time is required. Yeah, it's just church on Sundays and you're good. You and God are good. Also, flip side of that, don't expect that all you have to do is be with other believers and not do any self-study. And also, you'll just be fine with God. All you have to do is be around other Christians and sort of be in this church social club and you'll be all good. No, it's not like that either. Move that guy. So those are things not to expect from church, or from when you become a Christian, or as a Christian now. If you're struggling with any of those now, let's see. Just trying to go through real quick, Paul. Yes, I am still technically on doing extra life. It lasts until you can still give to my extra life through the end of the year, and it's still tax deductible for this year. So that's why I'm leaving the bar up. Dale says you have to be willing to do the legwork. Yeah, and we're going to get into the things to expect here in a second. Excuse me. Geek Devotion says Christ never said life was gonna pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows while farting cotton candy. We live in a fallen world and life will suck at times, but we have hope now. That's true. Paul says, in the end, is that after the millennium? Paul? Oh my gosh. Geek Devotions, many of the Beatitudes are eschatological in nature. Paul says, wow, farting cotton candy. That sounds amazing. Geek Devotions, do not forsake coming together as is the custom of some. Indeed. Oh, did I miss Lopan the Man saying something? Yes, it is, LOL. That's weird. Word. Well, Lopan the Man, if you said something, I do not see it in the chat, which is weird. It looks like Geek Devotions is responding to you, but I didn't see it. Very, very odd. Anyway, you can try retyping it. But, oh, you meant Paul. Okay, that makes much more sense. Okay. So the things to expect when you are a Christ follower, do expect that, like Geek Devotion said, that you are going to have hope. That even in the face of whether it's cancer or loss of job, loss of a loved one, that it is not the end. I mean, there's a really powerful scene in Return of the King, The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Lopain says, "Wow, I'm funny and didn't even say anything." Exactly, Lopan, man. You're just your presence. But there's a really fun, really moving scene in Return of the King where Pippin's saying, "Well, I guess this is end then," and Gandalf says, "End? This is this is not the end." After this, the gray of this curtain, the gray of this world falls back, and we're left with swift shore or swift sunrise or something like that. And I mean, that's definitely, I think that there's a lot of real world truth to that for believers, because not necessarily when we die. It depends on what your view of eternity is in heaven, and if we're called up right away when we die, if you believe in something called soul sleep. I'm still sort of on the fence on what I believe about that. But regardless, at some point we will be created in our glorified bodies, just as Christ was in his glorified body, and we won't experience death, decay, pain. All tears will be wiped away from our eyes. And I think the way the Lord of the Rings phrases it is sort of a nice corollary to what that would be like. So we have that hope, because though Lord of the Rings is fiction, Christ and what he did is not. And so we have this really, really strong hope in what he did for us. Another thing to expect as a Christian is that I was going to say you will have community around you, but that's not necessarily true, especially if you're someone who's like a Lone Star Christian or a Lone Wolf Christian. Like, I don't need other people. It's just me and God. So, but you can expect, similarly to Christ, to be tempted and to have fallenness happen to you and happen around you, and that you're still going to struggle with sin. You're not going to just be free of it. Sometimes we do have burdens that we are set free from, but it doesn't always happen. I thought one of you guys were saying good night. You were just talking about soul sleep. So the things to expect if you are a Christ follower, and full disclosure, this part I did not have I did not have written down. I vocalized all this out as I was preparing today. Did I have enough to say about this? And so I sort of just out loud said what I would say tonight. Didn't write any of it down. So last minute I wrote down the streams and podcast part. And unfortunately, God got the raw end of the deal. So like I was saying, expect to be fallen still, even if you're a Christ follower, and to not make the best choices. So do expect that. Do expect to have hope, though, and do expect to still be tempted, but God has given you a way. I believe God will always give you a way out of temptation, much like the story of David and Bathsheba, if you're familiar with that. David was sort of, his armies went out to war. He was back at the temple, and he was staring out from his palace on the city and saw this woman Bathsheba bathing, and he's like, his eye was drawn to her, and he wanted her for himself. And there was a person there, like a page or something right there, and said out loud, "Sir, isn't that Bathsheba, the wife of," totally forgetting his name now, her husband, whatever his name was. So he's like, God puts this person in David's place to say, hey, hello, what you're thinking is not what you should be doing. Just be aware. But David just goes right on past that. Uriah, thank you, Uriah the Hittite. Thank you, Fabulous Lomax, and welcome. Goes right on past that, and of course, unfortunately, decides to take Bathsheba, kill Uriah the Hittite, and wife or her husband. Oh, Uriah is the husband. Bathsheba is the wife. And then of course, as you may know or not know, the baby that's conceived by them dies, but David repents, and then Bathsheba gives birth to another baby, Solomon, who then goes on to write Proverbs and all that. Ecclesiastes too, I believe. Anyway, way off the point. God will give you a way out of temptation. Even though you will be tempted, he will give you a way out. And the best way out is probably God's word, having it written on your heart. Just like Jesus, when he is tempted in the desert by Satan, he gave, and Geek Devotions did a Bible study on this recently, where it was all about how Jesus used the word against Satan. Well, let's do this, move you this way. Though that wasn't really the best option, but that's okay. There we go. Okay. Fabulous says, hey guys, how's it going? Going well. We're just getting to the end here of Streams, Pods, and God, so I'll wrap that up, and then we'll do Q&A here for about 15 more minutes. So thank you everyone for watching this edition of Streams, Pods, and God. Tonight we talked about the things to expect and the things not to expect and the things to expect when you're streaming, podcasting, or being a Christ follower, especially if you're new to the faith. I have been Francisco Ruiz. Please like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this content and want to see more of it. And if you want to watch live, we do these streams live on twitch.tv/retrorewindpod almost every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. So thanks for being here, and we'll be doing a Q&A after this. Again, you have to be live for the Q&A.